Episode 174 of the Volunteer Youth Worker Podcast. Welcome back, folks. And if this is your first time, we are so glad that you're here because today we've got a conversation that I think is going to be really helpful. If you are a volunteer, you got a group of students, you got some folks that you're investing into, there are hard questions that come up. And today we're going to talk about how you should respond as a volunteer youth worker when you get those hard questions from students. And I've got the expert on the whole topic, Steve Zacharias.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, how you doing?
Expert. Love that.
Yeah, well,
Expert at what?
Steve is part of our team here at Youth Worker Community, and you've been thoughtful on this, Steve. So I'm looking forward to the wisdom you're going to bring. Before we get there, though, we want to let people know just about a particular friend of ours, an organizational friend of ours.
Oh, yeah.
That we've been partnering with in this season, and it is Briarcrest College and Seminary. And so Briarcrest has allowed us to do some great things this fall and winter as they've brought their partnership on board, their sponsorship of our events. And so we just want to make sure that you guys know how much we love Briarcrest, not just because they support the work we're doing, but Steve, you and I have both spent time at Briarcrest.
Right. Briarcrest has been a real influencer in our own development and faith, and so good, too.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Briarcrest is a university, grants degrees, bachelor's and master's level education in Caronport, Saskatchewan, in the prairies. But yeah, both Steve and I spent some time there. And honestly, when I think about hard questions and wrestling with some of the difficult things about our faith, I learned and grew a lot in the midst of those hard questions because of my time at Briarcrest. And so a lot of times I think when we talk with youth workers, one of the things we advocate for is to help our students as they graduate, make sure to get to some type of Christian higher ed after high school, because it will allow them to wrestle with their faith in an honest way, but also not safety is maybe the wrong way to say it, but in an environment that allows that kind of exploration and also is still grounded in the truth. And so at least for me, being at Briarcrest, being able to ask hard questions of my profs, of my dorm mates, of my the people in leadership really did help shape my faith to this day. And so gosh, we just think it's a great spot for either you to go as a youth worker, but certainly to think about sending your students. So we've got links in the show notes. And if they end up there, Steve, what's the best place to go eat in Moose Jaw?
Oh, wow, Jeremy. I might reveal something about myself here. I went to Briarcrest like 25 years ago. And sometimes when I pass through, I go and look for some of the old places, and I'm not sure that they're all still there.
Oh, really? What was your favorite spot? When you get a little bit of time, you drive with your friends to Moose Jaw?
There used to be this little coffee shop in downtown Moose Jaw called Stephanie's, and we'd always go there for chai lattes.
Oh, that's fun.
That was the spot. I'm not sure if Stephanie still exists. Reach out. Let us know.
It was always Deja Vu Chicken. Deja Vu Chicken in Moose Jaw.
Deja Vu Chicken.
And I think they're still there. But I digress. Let's go to today's conversation. Steve and I were going to jump into it. How do you respond to hard questions from students? Let's go.
Welcome to the Volunteer Youth Worker Podcast. Youth ministries rise and fall on the volunteers. So we are here to encourage and equip you. Join the conversation as we tackle the practical questions you are asking so you can help the next generation know Jesus.
Jer, I wonder if you've ever been at a youth meeting or a retreat or something like that, and a student comes to you out of the blue with a really big, loaded question.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely, all the time. And I mean, everybody listening, you probably have got one from recently. You're like, hey, we're doing like a nice Bible study on like loving your neighbor, and then somebody just whammos you with something intense. You're
right?
Like, oh, to left field. What is that about?
Yeah, right. And it's just like my adrenaline starts pumping, my heart rate comes up, my palms get sweaty. I'm like, I have no idea how to answer this big question.
Yeah.
And I'm so scared sometimes of getting it wrong. And so many youth leaders I've met and stuff like that, this is their greatest fear in youth ministry is what if a student comes to me with a question I can't answer?
Oh, because my goodness.
We hold such responsibility, right? Like, we're going to destroy their faith if we can't answer this thing spot on.
Yeah. Well, you and I both have done, as point leaders in youth ministries, we've recruited volunteers. And so we've invited people to be, volunteers. And I think one of the biggest cautions that people have when you go for the ask is they're like, I don't know if my faith is mature enough. And what they're trying to say is that I don't have all the right answers to all the hard questions. I'm still dealing with stuff on my own. And so for this to be a question, I think today is going to be so helpful for people because we all have that insecurity of like, I don't have all of the answers, and students are asking harder and harder questions, it seems, as the years go on. Yeah, so absolutely. I'm with you, Steve.
To be perfectly honest, Jer, I have a high level of suspicion for people who do have all the answers.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Yes.
Because you know what? They're often not the best listeners.
Okay, yeah.
And I wonder if you've ever been in a situation too where you had a big question and you asked someone and they had a good answer, but you totally felt missed in the conversation.
Yeah, that's fair too, because I think that often could come up. And at the same time, I still feel like a little bit of like I wish I was as confident as some people. When some people seem to just know the answers, I get that they're not listening, but I still, for some reason, I don't fully get it. I wish I was that confident in life. But help us out, Steve, because so what are some of the questions that you've heard from students? Like what comes up?
You know, there's a lot of hard ones. I find questions of sexuality is huge these days. You know, kids are constantly coming and asking, what is your perspective on this? Or what's your perspective on that? That's a big one. And that one's a really hard, challenging, delicate kind of question. And that one probably raises my heart rate the most. You know, there's questions like the one that you were talking about, like, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? That's a big one. You hear that one a lot.
We had a youth worker actually write in with that question and wanting us to cover it as a topic. So although we may not dive directly to that, I think we should definitely hit that in an upcoming episode, because it's worth even showcasing what it's like to thoughtfully respond to a hard question after doing some digging. You know, okay, so that's, why do bad things happen to good people? And it will often come in like a specific scenario too, right? Student comes up and they're like, hey, like my grandma died. Why did God let my grandma die? And you're like, wow, that's a hard question to enter into in the moment where the stakes are high for this student.
So true, Jer. So like, I think what we could do, like, we can't tackle every one of those hard questions, but I wonder if we could just in this time set a foundation of some of the things that we can say and ask in a conversation like this, where these big, hard, sensitive questions are being asked.
Do you want to throw just a couple more just so that people have reference? Because I know we just said like questions about sexuality are difficult. Why do bad things happen to good people? That's a difficult one. Are there some other big ones that you would be like, oh yeah, those are often difficult? Like, I need to do more research, or I need to think about a little bit more of my response. What else comes up?
Yeah, for sure. Like, how can I trust the Bible?
Yeah.
You know, how do I know God is real?
Yeah.
You know, these are big questions. I don't know, Jared, what are some of the other questions that you get as well?
Yeah. Why did my family break up?
Oh, wow. Yes.
You know, why do my friends not like me? Why do I get bullied at school? Why am I made this way? Why do I have this issue, this health issue, whatever that might be?
Yeah. Why am I wrestling with this addiction?
Yep. Yeah. All those things. Those are all
Why
big
do I
questions.
feel so alone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Big questions. And you know what, Jared, I wonder if I could start off by just sharing one of the big questions that a student came to me with, and I totally blew it.
Okay.
So I remember there's this one student. He was a regular question asker. I would often have something in my inbox from him at least every week. He'd stop by my office and that sort of thing, and so we'd often have these conversations. And I remember one day him coming to my office and asking me about perspectives on science, evolution, creation, that sort of thing. So here's again one of those places where you just feel this pressure to be smart. And I had this friend who was really smart. He had his doctorate degree in evolutionary science. And through a process of like a decade, he had kind of just worked through all the different models of creation, evolution. And he had actually come out the other end with a strong scientific support for biblical creation. And I thought this would probably be the best information to be giving this student who was wrestling with his, high school bio teacher, and how could he reconcile his faith. And I recognize our listeners probably have different perspectives on that as well. And I think I'd have done better if I had not taken a strong perspective. But here's what I did was I started to share information with these questions, and I watched his eyes glaze over. And I'm like, I'm totally missing this student. And I didn't realize it in the moment. I was just like, I thought he was rejecting my brilliance. And he went away, and I didn't hear from him for a number of weeks, which was really strange. And so I reached out and I was like, bro, I wonder if there was something I said or did in that last time we were together that made you feel missed. And he messaged me back and he said, yeah, I felt really dumb. I didn't feel like you really heard me. And boy, as a youth pastor, that's probably one of the hardest things to hear from one of your youth is when they say, yeah, you missed me. And so I went to my time of prayer and I was like, Jesus, what did I miss? Like, what do you want to do in my own heart to change me a little bit here so that I can be a better youth pastor? And what I sensed God was speaking to my heart at that time, he's like, you thought he was coming in to have revelation of me as creator. But really what he was after was he was after a revelation of me as father. He wanted to know if he was going to be loved and accepted. And you were the most loving and accepting person in his life, and you failed at that. You preached at him, you gave him answers and stuff like that, and you didn't really understand the heart of what he was really after. And so that's the thing I'd really love to share with our listeners. If you're approached with a really hard or a sensitive question, I try to always enter into these times with a little bit of suspicion that the question is the question that's being asked right now, really revealing what the student is looking for most from me in that moment. Or is that question a test of whether I'm just going to turn around and preach, correct, or judge something that they're sharing with me? And so that's, go ahead.
So what do you do? What do you do in those moments? Because it's, the question's still there. It's out there. There might be other people listening or watching. What's your internal talk? Steve, how are you processing? How do you respond even?
Right. Well, first of all, Jerry, I think one of the places where I live in my own mind is I don't flatter myself to think that this student hasn't already found answers to their question in other places. They probably already have thoughts on that. They also probably already think they know what I'm going to say. And so I don't go to those places first. I'll ask them, that's a great question. Why do you ask?
Oh, okay. So any question, because almost any question,
yes,
you can respond in that way. So what you're saying is, as youth workers, you get a hard question from a student. Instinctively, you can just memorize this and use this immediately afterwards in a group setting, in a personal setting, doesn't matter. You respond with, can you say it again, Steve?
That is a really interesting question. Why do you ask?
Why do you ask? Okay.
What's going on for you right now that brought that question to the top?
Yeah.
What's going on in life right now that's your great wondering?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And so then what kind of responses are we going to get when we ask that question?
You know what? You're probably going to get silence for a moment. I don't know if everyone else is like me, Jerry. You'll have to tell me. But I tend to rehearse what I'm going to share with people, especially if I've got a big question, is I've already in my mind kind of figured out what is going to feel like a safe conversation, what's going to feel like a dangerous conversation. And I will probably have outs to that if I'm coming with a big question, and I'll plan my exit if I don't like where we're going. This question is going to put me on my heels a little bit because it gets me off my script. I was prepared to share with you this test question to feel if I was safe, but you're going to actually listen to me, which in essence does make me feel safe, right? But in that split second, they're going to have to kind of evaluate, do I want to tell them what I'm really thinking?
Right.
And you know what? For most youth, the answer is yes, because nobody has asked them that question before. And that is a question that feels a lot like love.
Yeah.
What's going on for you right now? Why do you ask?
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So we get a response, we get them to think. They come back with a response. Can you give us like a general sense of what we might hear from them in that regard? And then how are we supposed to follow up with that?
Yeah, so they're going to come back with their best framework of how they're understanding their situation, their big question. And to which I'd really like to ask another question is, what does that mean for you right now? Because they'll come back with their response. And sometimes there's nuance. Sometimes there is, a whole lot of thinking that has gone into that. And we know that we live in a diverse world where thinking around terms and words can be so different for every person. When a person thinks this, what does that word mean for you? And it's like, what does that mean for you? Okay. What does that look like in your life? And explore even deeper and engage in deeper listening.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is question number one that we want to respond with. So we're doing questions after they ask questions. This is almost like the way of Jesus. He asked a lot of questions. Right. So we want to ask, why do you ask? We get a response, and then we're trying to understand what the stakes are for them personally. So maybe what does that mean for you is a potential question there. You might have to tweak it based off their response, obviously, but I think what I'm hearing you right is correct. We're trying to understand what's at stake for them personally with this question.
Right, Jared? Like, I wonder how many listeners are going, man, Steve has not given me anything to work with here because I need answers.
Yeah.
And I just want to flip that around and say, you know what? I think your best answers are often questions. Because our goal is to build a relational space where we can really get to the heart of things. Because like I shared with that earlier story, I just missed the student's heart of what they really needed in that moment. And I did it because I was rushed to answers and I didn't ask good questions.
Yeah.
And it would have brought me to a completely different outcome. And it did, as I continued to ask those questions in the future. And we restored that relationship.
Yeah.
And stuff. But I think our best answers are questions.
And we should be clear here too, because I think sometimes, we're trying to make good relational connections with students, but the reason that we're doing that is we're trying to do good discipleship.
Right.
So like the point of this isn't, there's great organizations that do, mentorship and, care for teenagers and, big brothers, big sisters, whatever it might be. And we learn from those places. We love those places and we think those are valuable for students because we care about them, but we ultimately want them to know and follow Jesus. And so these are oftentimes questions that have spiritual implications, but the implications might be in our response that their faith adjusts not because of the answer we have, but the posture that we've taken. And so like as you've explained earlier, Steve, you maybe gave a great answer that, gives them a theological framework to understand something, but their theology and their understanding of God is being shaped not by your answer, but by the way you answered. And so you're taking us a little bit deeper on that. So we're asking, why do you ask? Then we're trying to understand what the personal stakes are for that student. Mm-hmm. And then once we have that information, are there other questions that we're still using to dig deeper, or are we now starting to process our response?
Jared, my general rule of thumb is when I'm asking myself, how many questions should I ask to get to the deeper? My general answer in my own mind to that one is just one more question.
Okay.
Just one more question I think is necessary. So I might go a layer deeper yet. And if I feel that this is a really hard issue sort of thing, it's like, what do you want me to know about you right now? What is one thing that you would like for me to really understand about your life experience in this question right now?
Mm-hmm. How do you ask that? Is that just how you would ask it?
Hey, if there was, I just ask it like that. If there was one thing that you would really want for me to know about this question right now, what would be the most important thing?
Okay, yeah. So is there something that I should know about even why you've asked this question, or know about this question, or know about your situation around this question? That's kind of what we're digging for.
Right. Like it's things like why do bad things happen to good people sort of thing. And if I'm going to ask that question, what is one thing that you really want me to know? Is like, well, there might be a tragedy that happened in their life.
Right.
A huge injustice that happened in their life.
Yeah.
That they might be testing whether I'm a safe person in asking that question. And then when I turn around and ask, what is the thing that you most want me to know about you right now?
Yeah.
That does open the door for them to say, well, I experienced this abuse, or I experienced this hardship, or there's been this tragedy in my family that I'm really wrestling to think about right now. Yeah. I asked you a very intellectual question because we often feel some safety and security by asking these cognitive, intellectual questions that doesn't bring our heart into it. Mm-hmm. But I think the human heart really wants to reconcile the deep emotional elements of our questions as well.
Yeah.
And so sometimes those cognitive questions are a test to see if I'm safe with you, and can I really tell you what my heart is feeling?
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So so we're trying to understand, and that's even a little bit still on the second point. Like we want to know what the stakes are. We want to know what their situation is. We want to know what the stakes are with these questions. Can I throw a question in that I would ask too? Kind of at this point, towards the end, I would want to ask something like, "What do you think the answer is?" So why do bad things happen to good people? Well, what do you think? If somebody was to ask you, what would you say?
Right.
And understand where they're coming from.
And Jared, to build on that question, which is a fantastic question to come to as we're coming to when we're getting a heart sense of where they're landing, is where are you getting your information from? Who do you trust to speak into this place?
Yeah.
Do you have doubts? Like when you go to those sources, does it cultivate any doubts? Is there any places where you disagree with these people or sources and stuff?
Yeah. Okay, that's really good. So let me repeat back what I'm hearing. So why do you ask? It's a big first question, a motivation, understanding of where they're coming from. Then we're asking questions, trying to get to what are the stakes? Where are the personnel points from this question. So we're trying to get that. So what does that mean for you? Is there something that I should know about you in the midst of this? Then we can understand a little bit of what they actually think. So, hey, what do you think the answer is? And then as they respond, understanding where their other authorities are coming from. So who else do you trust to speak to this? And we'll put all these questions in the show notes. Who else do you trust to speak to this? Understanding that obviously, you, the youth worker that are engaging this question, you are one of the people that they trust. Obviously, they're asking a question to you, but they probably have taken that question to other people. And so understanding, I was talking to my parents and they said about this. And all of a sudden you realize, you might be positioning yourself in a question against their parents. You want to be cautious about that.
Right.
And so I just remember, and this is kind of funny, silly things, but, students asking back in the day, like, hey, should I listen to this top 40 artist? Because they've got a big hit. Everybody's listening to the artist. What do you think? And so I'm like, it's a catchy song and it seems reasonable and it's not completely morally bankrupt, and so thinking like, it sounds fine to listen to it, not realizing that of course their parents have said under no circumstances can you listen to the top 40 mix. And so if I gave them permission, now all of a sudden they've gone back to their parents and I'm at a church board meeting in 2 weeks with the dad saying, hey, you keep telling my kid that he can listen to this music that I've told him not to. And it's like, okay, this is a hot button topic. So who else do you trust to speak to this is a very, very, very worthwhile to ask. Any other questions that before you're ready to formulate kind of like a response, I guess?
We're getting really close to formulating a response. In fact, Jeremy, I wonder if by this stage in the conversation, they're already formulating their own response.
Okay, yeah.
You've probably come to a place where they've discovered what the real question actually is.
Yeah.
And we're probably at a place where maybe that first introductory question, which was really about testing how secure they were with you, maybe that question has actually become secondary to the real question that they want to ask. And probably just by listening and exploring all these things, you've probably answered it. Because like I said, most kids come into these hard questions already with an answer in their mind. They probably already know. It's infrequent that we're going to just like totally shock them. Although a guy like you, Jer, is so wise and brilliant. Maybe you'll bring a thing or two that's brand new in the situation.
No, but
in my experience,
to use that example, I mean, on the one that I just used, the question the student was asking, "Can I listen to this music?" Isn't "Can I listen to this music?" It's "Can I disobey my parents?" Is like the real question. And so if I was thoughtful enough to listen, it's like, no, you should follow your family rules in your house. Like that's what you really should do. That's the honest question behind the question. Right. But you have to ask a few to get to that point.
Yeah. You probably would have got that one. Hey, that's an interesting question. Why do you ask?
Yeah.
Probably would have.
Probably would have saved myself a board meeting. Yeah, exactly. And that's a big one on like dating. Hey, dude, what do you think if can I go date?
Yes.
Talking to middle school students, especially if that comes up. And then you got to check with the family rules. Oh my gosh, family rules. Okay. So, what other questions are we asking before we start formulating responses?
You know what, Jer? Like I said, I think we've probably come to formulating a response.
Okay, so this is it.
What do you hear me saying? Those kinds of things. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
What do you anticipate I'm going to say to you?
Okay,
and there might be some things that you'll tweak along the way, but I am betting bananas to dollars here, Jer, that by this stage in the conversation, we've probably wrapped up 99% of the content.
Yeah.
They've probably got their answer.
Yeah.
Because what it's going to expose is stuff that will guide that. Yeah. But there is one last question, Jer, that I like to ask
at
the end of all of this is the question, and what else? Yeah. And what else is on your mind?
Yeah.
Because for every student that has a good question, there's another good question right behind it. And if you've done this well, they're probably going to want to ask another question. Like I said before too, we often rehearse the thing that we want to bring to these people that we want to test the trust. And the real questions often lie just underneath that. And so sometimes just saying, hey, we've had this really great question. What else do you want to talk about right now?
And one of the ways, if you're, as you listen to this, if you struggle with that question or if that question shuts them down, there is another conversational tool that you can use, just called mirroring. That if you mirror the last the last thing that they said and turn it into a question, it just kind of opens up like, hey, I want to hear a little bit more of what you just said.
I love that, Jer. So good.
Yeah. Good old, that's from a book that is a negotiation book of some kind. So it's not maybe super helpful, but it was a cool tactic and helpful to understand how to help people talk a little bit more and invite them to speak when they're rolling. Okay. So those are the end of the questions. So how do you respond to hard questions from students? We were just saying, ask a bunch of questions. And that's all. What happens next, Steve? What if then you've got all the responses or you've got all of the thoughts and now you have to like deliver something, but you're still feeling a little bit out of touch and you don't have a clear direction of what you should say?
You know what, Jer? Again, I think this is the space where when we do this, I think it creates sacred space where the Holy Spirit starts to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think we can really trust him in those moments, because doesn't Scripture even say, that we can trust him to give us the words and answers in those moments? Mm-hmm. Or if we do come to a place where we're just like, man, we don't know the answer to this question, or it doesn't become clear what this student really needs, there is that place too. It's a place, I think, where we demonstrate some integrity to say, you know what, I don't have a great answer for you here right now. Mm-hmm. I wonder if we could talk about this again. Mm-hmm. If I could spend a little bit of time thinking this through.
Yeah. For especially hot button topics, you want to make sure you make some space and are thoughtful. So saying, hey, can I bring you a response next week or the next time, or can I send you an email, or whatever the appropriate kind of follow-up is totally fine. The other thing that I might suggest as volunteers, if it's not like a hot button cultural issue that you obviously should check in with your what church theology on or something along those lines, and your point leader, you could offer a little bit of the view of, hey, I'm a follower of Jesus that's a little further down the line, and maybe you've wrestled with that, and just to even show the wrestling. Mm-hmm. So the question, why do bad things happen to good people, which I think we should cover as an actual response in an upcoming episode. But you could say, that's a hard question that I've wrestled with too. Mm-hmm. Here's some of the things that I've dealt with around that question, is that I've watched, good people who have died of bad diseases. And I've wondered about that too. And I've looked at this scripture and I've looked at that scripture, and here's where I'm at in the wrestling. And to show that even when you're wrestling with something, you can still be faithful in following Christ and still have doubts and concerns. That's okay. And so you can actually model that responsibly to students for some of these issues. Can't work for all of them, but for some of them, showing that can actually be really, really valuable. So give me some time. Let me show you my wrestle. Or if it's a reasonable thing that you can have a good answer for and you feel confident, comfortable, you've heard from the students and you can offer something, you can, of course, wade into that. But whatever questions you are actually getting as volunteers, please let us know. We're going to put our contact info in the show notes, because we would love all the hard questions that you're dealing with your students. And we would love to maybe pull in experts to help answer them. And so, we can access some great folks from around our country of Canada and even beyond to tackle some of the hardest things out there. And so do not delay. Please send us a note. It's just my email, jeremy@youthworker.community. And we'd love to help tackle a big question for you. Steve, as we kind of wrap up, I want to give you the last word here. Anything else that you want to give to youth workers as they're tackling some of these hard questions?
I just want to remind them that our prayers are with them as they're tackling hard questions. I want to just assure them that God is present with them, and leaning on him is the most critical element of all of this. There's so many times when students ask hard questions where I'm just simply in my mind saying, Holy Spirit, help me. Mm-hmm. Give me insight and wisdom to what this student is really wrestling with and what they need most. Mm-hmm. Help me to take the pressure off me to be smart, and allow me just to be in a space here where the student feels connected, because we know that students will seek after the answers, or they'll take to heart the answers from the people from whom they feel most connected. And ultimately, I want that to be Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I want to direct them towards him. And so I just want to encourage the leaders that that's something that's right there for them at the stage they're at.
Yeah.
Be connected.
I love that. Great stuff. Well, friends, thanks for joining us for today's conversation. We hope that you'll join us next time for another episode here on the Volunteer Youth Worker Podcast. And if you are a youth worker, which you are because you're listening, if you find this helpful, would you please share this along with the rest of your team? We've got lots of episodes in the archives that can speak to the questions that you're asking. And anytime, please let us know what answers or what questions we should be tackling on upcoming episodes. We will go from there and appreciate all that you're doing. You're making an eternal difference. We'll see you next time.